Welcome back. In this video I'm going to be showing you how I wired up a full 12 volt electric system in my VW Transporter. Enjoy. So from the few weekends which I've had in the van, this is one thing which I've noticed it's been really missing, so it'd be good to get this all finished. So I'll run you through what I'm going to do first and show you all the electrics which I'm planning to put in the vehicle. This is the van electrics layout I've made to show how the 12 volt system is going to work. Starting at the alternator and starter battery, I'm going to run a 16mm squared high flux cable from the starter battery to the DC to DC charger, which is shown just here. This will have an isolator switch and fuse in between, and it'll be an 80A fuse. The DC to DC charger I have also has MPPT capabilities, allowing power to come from solar, but I won't be using that yet. It's a 50A DC to DC charger, and I'm going to run a signal cable back to the ignition, so no power will be drawn from the van battery when the ignition is off. I've had to use a DC to DC charger over a split charge relay due to the van having a smart alternator and start stop. I'm going to run another 16mm squared cable from the DC to DC to a positive bus bar, which is shown just here, and once again this will be fused as well. All fuse values which I'm using have been determined from manufacturer specifications. The positive bus bar will then connect to the leisure battery using another 16mm squared cable, which is just here. Lost my pointer then. I will run a negative cable from the DC to DC and leisure battery, which is both these ones here. This will go back to the negative bus bar, and this negative bus bar will then be earthed to the van. The VW Transporter has a common earth points all dotted around the van, so there'll be no need to run a cable back to the negative battery terminal, and we can just earth it to the earth point under the driver's seat. Next, a fuse box will be added, which is shown here, which will draw its power from the positive bus bar and once again be fused and earthed back to the negative bus bar with an inline fuse in the cable. Running off this fuse box will be the full 12 volt system. The fuse box I have is a 12-way fuse box, so I have loads of space to add more devices in the future should I need to, as I'm only using about 5 at the minute. Off the fuse box I'm going to run 2 lighting circuits, which are shown here, one for the rear lights, one for the front lights. So this will be a front light switch and then 4 LEDs in the front, and rear light switch and 4 LEDs in the back. Also we're going to run a phone charger, which will be 2 USB ports off here, then the fridge and the jet wash. Neither the fridge or jet wash have been bought yet, they're in future plans, so I'm still going to run the cables and set it all up, but then I just will leave the fuse out so no power's passing down the cables, so as soon as the fridge and jet wash arrive, I can just plug those in and go from there. The full electric setup's going to be stored in here, so I've already ran all the wires through, which you'll have seen in previous videos, but I'm going to fit all the electrics in this section here. First, what I'm wanting to do is I'm going to create a little battery holder and get the battery in position, as that's the biggest and main part, and then I need to run cables from the starter battery to the leisure battery, well, to the DC charger and then to the leisure battery. In order to run the cables, they come from the engine, so it needs to come from through the bulkhead there, run under the floor, under this seat, and then out from under the seat through that gap into this section here. So that'll be easy enough to do. I'm going to put fuses and isolators in all that as well, but that's the main concept. But as I said, first I want to get the position of the battery sorted. So as I can't draw the battery to the floor, but it needs to remain in one position, I'm going to create a wooden frame for it, just a very small wooden base, just hold it in position and just drill it in this corner here. So this is where the battery is going to sit. So I'm going to have it closest to this side of the drawer, just because all the fuse boxes are going to sit that side for these cables. So I'll just keep it over this side. It's about 20 kilograms this battery, so I don't want it sliding around. Not that it will, but I don't want it sliding around, so I'm just going to box it in around here. The battery which I've gone for is an Expedition Plus. It's a 115 amp hour battery, AGM battery, so it's not a lithium ion one, but it'll be more than enough for what I need for the van, as I'm not going to be charging anything massive. It'll just be phones and a fridge, so nothing major. So that's the battery in. It's just a very quick makeshift frame for it, but holds it still, so there's no budging with that. So now I'm going to run all the cables through to this area, which needed from the front, as that'll be the biggest job in here. Before I start terminating any of the cables or connecting anything up, I'm just going to sort out where all components are going to sit. So my DC to DC charge has not arrived yet, but I'm going to put that in this gap here. So in this gap, I'm wanting to put my 2 positive and negative bus bars and my fuse box. So I'm just going to go and mount those up all now. I'm also going to put an isolator switch for the battery, so I can just cut off the main battery from the van, so I don't ever drain that. So I'm going to put that around, I think, on this side. But we'll see, it might go here, but it's going to go either here or here, so we'll just see where it fits best. So this is the layout. I'll just show you this before I screw it down. So the supply from the battery is going to come into this isolator and then into the DC charger, which will just be here, and that will go to the positive bus bar. This leisure battery will then connect to the positive bus bar as well. Obviously all negative with negative bus bar, and then there's a negative an earth point onto the seat which I'll connect it to, and then a positive and negative feed will then go off into the fuse box just here, and then all these wires will then connect to the fuse box and power the circuits. So yeah, I'll drill all this down, and then we'll start connecting everything up. So the first thing I need to do is take both seats out. So I've shown you this before in a previous video, but just undo these 8 bolts here for this passenger seat, 17mm nut. Having taken this out a few times, the best way I've found to do it by yourself, sort of just tilt it back off the front ones and then just pull it off the rear pegs and then just drag it out. Underneath both seats, but it'll be easy to show you on this one I've just taken out, is VW have put this little flap. As you can see, it's nice and clean under there, but this just allows all cables to come up under the seat. So that's how I'm going to then have the cables come out the floor under the driver's seat. To take the driver's seat off, you first need to take the handbrake cover off. So that's just unclips from a little clip there, pull straight off, and then you can pull off the rear plate. So I need to give this clean up because it's got a bit of carpet spray from when I was doing the rubber floor. But yeah, this just pulls off over the top, and you're left with that unit which you can then dismount in order to lift the seat off. So I've just started pulling back some of the floor in here. It comes out of here really easily, so I don't think I'll have to take this step off. I might do to put it back in, but we'll come to that later. So I'm just going to pull it off on this side, leave this side as it is, and I'll do this side once I've taken the driver's seat out. Also, when I've got it out, I'm going to give this whole area a really big clean, as it's absolutely filthy. Scrap what I just said. As I got further along, you do have to take the step out, but it's just the same as the other one, just unclips, and then it unclips from underneath there. But you don't need to take this off, you can just pull it out, so it's really easy to do. So underneath the dash there's these little plugs which will just unscrew, just holding the floor in place. There's one there, and then some over under the other footwell, so we've got to unscrew those before you can pull this top section out. I'll do a time lapse on how it all comes out, just so it shows it a bit easier when I take the full flooring out. But I'll leave this as it is for now until I've removed that seat. So both seats are removed now. So this one, as I've said before, I believe, is you just have to, it's just 4 bolts underneath the seat, 16mm spanner, same as the other one. I said that was a 17 earlier, but it's not, it's a 16. And then yeah, there's only one cable underneath that, which is the seatbelt sensor, and then there's this one which connects to the handbrake, which is your handbrake sensor. And you also have to remove the handbrake cover, so I've just paint marked where the tension was on the handbrake, just so I know where it is, and then remove the handbrake cover, or remove the handbrake, and then lift the flooring up. Yeah, so now it's time for the flooring to come up. I'm going to take that step off there as well, just make it easier, just like that one. So that's the flooring out. Came out pretty easy. So you just unclip it from all the back here, and then you have to undo the screws which I showed under there. And then on this side of the transmission column, you just have to take off a T15 Torx, which just gives this all a bit of movement. So yeah, all pretty easy. Yeah, I don't think we need to drop this off. This is just what houses the cables coming through. But I'm going to run the cables along this channel here and then in. So that should be fine. So I'm going to give this a good old hoover out. Give it a good old clean before I run the cables through. So in order to run a cable from your battery, which I've just removed it just for ease of access, you don't need to do this, but just was doing it, so I may as well do. So I've taken this trim off of here, and then there was a metal plate, this one here, which just sat in this gap here, covering this gap, and then we can see that there's a grommet which was in there, and then that is our path through into the van. So I'm going to run it from the battery through that grommet, but obviously with the battery here it comes up to like this height, so you're just working in that small gap. So I'm just taking the battery out just for a bit of ease of access. There's no issue in taking the battery out, it's easy enough to be done. So I'll just run the cable. This is my positive terminal, so I'll run it with this, along with this cable here, through this gap here, up through this grommet, and then just run it through that gap right there, and that's how we'll get power into the cabin. Just taking this under trim off here, literally just unclips from here. Super easy to do. Sorry if the bus going all upside down, but then you can see the red cable which I've just pushed through quickly. It's just coming through there, so I just need to pull that down. We'll pull it along this and run it down here, and then we can put all the battery and run it back together once I pull the cable through. The cable through there now, so I'm just gonna put the grommet through, put that in and run it through here, and then leave it. I'm gonna leave it as this for the minute. I'm not gonna crimp it or terminate it. I'll throw some electrical tape over the end of it just so the contacts don't get damaged, but yeah, I'll just leave it hanging in here until ready to connect it up. So that's the cable fully routed through now, so we can see the grommet back in, and then it comes through this, comes around here, comes through this one. I've just got it hanging over the side at the minute. So I'm going to put a fuse in the cable here, and then it'll connect to the positive battery terminal here, but we'll do all that at a later date. It's just a case of running all the cables through at the minute. I'm also going to cloth tape this whole cable, but I haven't got any, so I'll have to do that at a later date as well. I'll do that when I do the fuse. So yeah, but very happy with that. It was much easier than I expected. I'd seen all videos saying how horrible it was to run these through, but yeah, there was no issues at all. Just a few cobwebs and a bit of dirt, but it was fine. All the work in the engine bay done, so if you look through this gap here, you can see the red cable come through there. I've reattached this cover plate, comes through there, round the back of the battery, and then just goes there. Positive and negative terminals reconnected, battery all secured in. The hardest bit of the whole job was that little bracket, trying to secure that little bracket there. It's just fiddly to get to, and quite just getting the battery back in the right position. It'll only go in if the battery's in the exact same position it was in. So, but we're all back together, so we'll just start the van up, clear any faults which you get from doing the battery, and then just run the cable in the cabin. This is only transporter knowledge, so it's only if you have a transporter this is relevant. But if you disconnect the battery, when you start the car back up, you'll get loads of errors with your cruise control, your parking system. You've just got to turn the wheel from centre all the way to one side, then all the way back the other way, and then that just clears all the faults, just resets the steering sensor, which makes it all happy. So now it's just a case of running this cable along here, and then under the seat. Easy peasy. So this is how we're looking now. I've got the cable coming down there, comes down this centre channel, it's the deepest channel. We'll come into this section here, which is where the cables come up through the passenger seat. Goes along this channel, under the seat, just under there, and then comes out just in there. So that's as far as we go now, just running the cable through. Well, obviously, get all the flooring back in, get the passenger seat back in. And yeah, all the intrusive work in the van's done. It's now just wiring up the electrical system. So I've just given the flooring a good clean. Now it's time to get it back in the order which we took out, obviously feeding all the new cables through the gaps in the floor. So we're just going to put it back in and get everything. Obviously it's just going to be the same procedure as taking it out, just putting it in place and then tucking it all in, and then using the 2 clips under the dashboard just to clip it in. So I'll show you that now. So that's all the cables through, and the flooring back on. So I've given it clean. It's just the sun in here is making it look dirty. So it's just a bit streaky, so I'm just going to give it another wipe down. But yeah, everything's back in. Wasn't too bad. Wasn't as hard as I thought it would be. So yeah, it's just going to be a case of getting the seats back in now. The hardest bit was the steps. The steps were really awkward to put on, but we're all back in and ready to go. One thing just to know, because I got it wrong the first time, is the handbrake sensor, which is this here. This goes so it's depressed when the handbrake's on, so it uses this little metal tab here. Can't really see that well from this angle, but yeah, it uses that little metal tab there, which just depresses that, which lets you know when the handbrake's off, and then yeah, so it's like reverse logic. So all the seats are back in now, looking much better. Handbrake cover's back on, everything's looking great, so very happy with this. Now I've just created the connection between the battery, which is here, and then the positive and negative bus bar. So I'll just go through fuse there. So I've not connected up yet, but I will do once everything else is done. So I'm just going to do from this negative bus bar over to the van earth under the seat now. Just a quick update on where we're at with the wiring. So we've got the in feed coming in with this one here. It's going to go into this isolator and then to my DC to DC charger, which hasn't arrived yet, annoyingly. And then that's then going to go from there to this buzz bar, and then the wiring which I've completed. We've got cable going from the buzz bar into a fuse just there, and then into the battery. Negative terminal of the battery goes back to the negative buzz bar. And we've got a positive cable again into fuse into the fuse box, and again a negative into the fuse box, and then all the wires in the van are then connected up to the fuse box, positive and negative. So that's all good. So yeah, we're just waiting on DC to DC charger really to get this all complete, and then I'll connect it all back up. Still got a bit of wiring tidying up to do. As you can see, it's quite messy here, so I'm just going to tidy this all up with a bit of cable ties. Yeah. So I'll show you that once that's done, and once we've got this in. I've not really filmed much of this, as access wise it's fine for working on, just awkward to film. So this is where we're up to now. Next up, what we're going to do is going to fit the switches. So we've got one of those cables there which comes to here, which would be the phone chargers, and then the front light switches, which will do all the lights. So we're going to fit all of these next, just whilst we're waiting for this DC to DC charger to arrive. This is the DC to DC charger now, it's all installed, and I am running a cable from it, which is this one here, and this is the ignition signal cable. So I'll just show you where that plugs into the back. I've also got this running from it. This is a Bluetooth module. This just allows me to track battery voltage and everything. But yeah, I'll show you where this one runs back to in the car. And fuse box, I have ran this jumper, so this just runs off one of the fuses there, and then I put a 5-amp fuse in it. And then this cable then feeds back, if I can get it out, is the signal cable there. So having checked when I turn the ignition on and off with a voltmeter, we are getting current, sorry, we're getting voltage and current when the ignition's on from this fuse. So this just means that when the ignition's on, it sends a signal back to the DC to DC charger, and it will only take current when that's on. Next up, I need to wire in all the switches and plugs which are going to sit on here. But first, I just wanted to test that the electric's working. So obviously, I've not got any fuses plugged into my fuse box just because I didn't want anything travelling through to the open open wires. But to test it, I have put a little 10 amp fuse just there in the fuse box, which is the wire which then goes to here. So if I now then measure the voltage between these, I'll just stand that up. As I was saying, if I measure the voltage between those two wires, like that there, you can see you've got 13 volts, 12, 13 volts. So that's perfect. So that's what we're expecting. So that means the electrics in the van are working. So now it's time to get everything else wired up. I'm just going to go and do a spot check on all wires running through, just to make sure before I wire everything up and then realise one doesn't work. But yeah, I'm very happy with this. So I've just put the switch in the back. So we've got a light switch here, and then I've got a phone charger. So if I now plug my phone in here, you can then see phone's charging. So we've got power and electrics in the back. Very, very happy about this. So just tidy up all the mess I made here. Do the one at the back. This is now the light switch fitted at the back. So it's going to work same. Just tidy up what I've done, but yeah, really happy with this. So I'm just going to go on with multimeter, check the voltage is obviously passing through this now when the switch is open and not when the switch is closed. A little bit more of an update and up to the finishing point of the electrics now. So we've just fitted and made these wooden panels here, and then I've got recessed cutouts with two LED spotlights either side, which come off that switch just there. So yeah, really happy with that. And I'm going to leave the electrics there now, as the rest of it's all in the roof, which I'll do in the next video. So perfect, very, very happy with this. It's been tested, it's been running for the last few days, and all the electrics work well, so can't complain. So that's all the electrics done up to a point, and that point being the roof. Can't do much more without a roof, so next we're going to make a roof, but I'm going to do that in the next video. So thank you very much for watching this one. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.